Welcome to another episode of the Carolina Flare Insider. I'm your host, RV Hodge. Let's take a look and see what we've got going on in the shop today. Today we're going to take a look at hole 64. We're going to demystify a little bit of the science and the magic behind the process of cold molded planking. What you see here at this layer is layer 1, and it is laminated onto the rib structure that was built into the boat, what we call rib bands. This is all glued to that structure, and at this point here, the boat has enough shape that rakes from the tumble home and transitions into the flare that we separate those boards in order to be able to create a faired surface, and then we layer a piece of fiberglass across that seam. We will do that for each successive layer. So layer 1, as you can see, is laid in here, and those diagonal planks are leaning aft. Layer 2 then gets laid on top of this, and you can see that those are leaning forward. What that does for us is that gives us a mechanical lock across each of those seams so that nothing can move without moving everything. The weep holes allow the glue to squeeze out as the screws are pressing the wood down. The screws are being used like clamps, and they are all removed, as you can see. The next layer will fill in all of the screw holes and will weep through the next layer. We put 3 layers of planking on our holes. If we take a look over here, we can see the gluing process as the guys are laying on the epoxy they're laying it on layer 2, and they're getting ready to glue down layer 3. And here you can see the guys putting in the screws and the washers. The washers are so they don't dimple deep into the wood. And then when that layer is finished, they'll pull all of those screws out, and this is typically a daily progression. They'll pull all of those screws out, and then they'll sand the surface, and it'll look just like this one, only the diagonals, well, as you can see, they go in the other direction. When that's all done, there will be a certain degree of trimming, smoothing, and then we'll be ready for the fiberglass, and I think that's a good subject for a different time. A quick update on our progress on hole 66. We are at the very final stages of framing. You can see almost all of the frame is laid in. It's almost all shaped. There are a few final details. We're notching in the last of the rib bands into the shear banding. There's a notch there, may or may not show up very well, and that gets laid in there, scribed until everything fits flush, clamped and screwed down and glued down, just like you can see that one right there. We're looking at the side infusion for the privateer, for the cabin of the privateer. It was infused yesterday, and theoretically that resin should be fully kicked off today. Let's take a quick check of it. You hear all that crunching? That means it's kicked off. This stuff is basically hard as a rock at this point, although we tend to like to leave it on the mold for about another 24 hours to get a good post-cure on it. Once that's done, we'll peel this all off the mold. We'll peel all of the material that absorbs the excess resin. We'll give it a quick sanding, and we'll take it up to the boat, scribe it in. As you can see, it's been designed to fit, but there's always a few little idiosyncrasies that have to be dealt with. And then we will glue it onto the boat, and we'll have a cabin side on. We'll be ready to infuse the port side. This is the starboard side.